All right, welcome to Agent Tactics. We are back with Kevin Knight, who is he's my brother from another mother of another mother, I guess. We are not related by any means, but we've been friends for a while, and we have been colleagues at Real. We've been colleagues not at Real. Now he's back at Real. We're super excited about that. We're here in Austin together. We joined KW like way back in the day at the same time, and so he's had an amazing career. He went off and did the whole brokerage thing. Now he's got his own private team here at Real, so that's super exciting. What we want to talk about today is we want to go through like right now is that tough time of year where it things seems like things are moving slower. It seems like things are taking longer to go under contract. How do we not hit burnout? How do we stay focused? How do we actually get business right now? Kevin, welcome, buddy.
Thanks, Jeremy. Always love to spend time talking about business. Keeps me fresh too. So thanks for having me on this call.
Nice, man. Well, tell us a little bit. I mean, I gave you a little decent intro there, but tell us a little bit about yourself and
Yeah.
what you've done over the years here.
Yeah. You kind of hit the nail on the head. My background is not in real estate like most people. I think, most people don't go to school for real estate. I did go to school for engineering, mechanical engineering, and I spent the first part of my career doing mechanical engineering at Caterpillar, learning the ropes there, and just didn't really like that culture. Like most people, I think corporate culture is what it is. There's great things about it, things that I appreciate more now that I've been out of it. But there's nothing quite like being able to have the fruits of your labor directly translate into income and be able to make the schedule that you kind of want to make and decide how you want to do that. And that's why I decided after, a stint in some entrepreneurship to get into real estate. So I've been doing that for 10 years in Austin and really like it. Um, Started growing a team recently, like after we'd started our brokerage back in 2022, which is not a great time to start a brokerage, if I'm being honest. The market was starting to tip down and people were starting to kind of flee, the idea that the market was growing and, decided to refocus my efforts on myself and growing my business. Of course, my best year was in 2021. I can't remember. I think I did, I don't know, close to 30 million, which is not crazy. It's normal, but I don't have like an assistant or buyer's agents or anything. So that was just kind of on my own and kind of my best year. So that's kind of where I am. And, coming over to Real back in June and starting now to grow a team again of agents that are, independently motivated and to grow my business myself.
Well, nice. Well, let's walk through what's happening right now, right? Obviously, we know the market is definitely changing. It's not we're like right in that time where it's about to get busy again. So what do we need to be doing right now in
Hmm.
order to not drag our feet, right? It's everything, every bone in my body tells me to go golf today. It
Yeah.
tells me to not make phone calls. What are some of the things that we should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a part of it I think that is very necessary, especially as much as we work and you work crazy. I mean, I'll give you props, Jeremy. Like you outside of your just even your business, all the things that you're doing for Real and for the team and for the community, I think is a lot. Plus, you're trying to be there and be a present father and husband to your wife. So, I can appreciate that for you. I think if anybody's talking about hard work, we all know you're one of the hardest working people, especially in this business. So, part of it is I think being gentle on yourself of finding those times where you can go golfing and take days off and do that. But I think you hit the nail on the head is that the hesitation is during a season of downtime. And this is a season within a season. This winter season of real estate, obviously slower, and it's within a greater season of very slow, you know, real estate market, especially in Austin. Austin listings are up 40% over where they were pre-pandemic. So that's kind of a concerning thing, and it's discouraging for all of us that have listings, that aren't selling. But the reality is, what has happened, most people were waiting on, whether you're okay with the outcome or not, was after the election, something had to change. And I think some people thought it would happen instantaneously, which isn't obviously right. But what it does is it kicks off the next phase in our economy, and there's no telling when that could happen. I think we saw the first euphoric little phase bump after the election was over. People were pumped about what could be, and we saw like kind of a bump in that. But you know as well as anybody else that's listening is that the real estate market takes time to come back around and get a lot of momentum built up to it. So, you know, whether that happens in January or whether that happens in this next spring season of hopefully spring's real estate selling season, um, most people are going to be incentivized to start right now with the organizing your current business and filling the pipeline for that business that's going to come in January. Because I think if you wait until January, it's going to be not too late, but as well as I do in real estate, you'll get a bulk of leads at one time. You'll have nothing, and then all of a sudden, one day you have four people that want to write a contract on a house. You have to be able to handle that volume at that time when it's coming. If you're not prepared with your systems, processes, going into January of this year, I think that you're going to regret it, because I do believe that's going to be a time to boost most people's businesses.
What systems, like, okay, it's November 15th, right? In a week and a half or whatever, or yeah, it's going to be Thanksgiving. If I'm starting on Monday, not today because it's Friday, and we're all going to go golfing today. We just said that, right? Just kidding.
Yeah,
I'm not golfing today. God, I
you
wish I was
should.
golfing. I wish I was golfing today so bad. But all right, so it's November 15th. I want to be prepared for all of this business that's going to come right after Christmas, right? What do I need?
Mhm.
What systems should I start setting up right now? And where should I be going with my marketing? What should I be doing to
Yeah.
get that business?
I think it depends on the phase that you are in your business. Like obviously, an agent that's been doing this for a longer period of time and feels very comfortable with the tools that they're using already are going to have a different set of things that they're going to want to fill the pipeline with. But to give very specific examples, like okay, if you're a newer agent to this business or to this brokerage, if you've gone to a new brokerage or started using a new tool, obviously the first thing you want to do is make sure that your system for receiving leads, tracking leads, and moving them down the pipeline, all that we know in the industry, we call it the CRM. The CRM can be one of anything. It can be an electronic tool that you're using to record that, like Lofty, which we use at Real, or like Follow Up Boss or Salesforce or whatever you want to use for tracking leads. Or it can be something as simple as a spreadsheet or just note cards. But whatever you're doing to consistently bring leads in, capture their information, and systematically move them down the pipeline of sales, which is receiving and qualifying the lead, determining how soon they're going to be purchasing or selling or making a decision, and moving them into the appropriate bucket so that you can get to a final solution. They're either going to do something in the near term or they're not. That process, however you manage that, should be the first and foremost thing that you do. And even if you've been doing this business for a long time, if you're not doing that, essentially you've built a walled garden around yourself, and you're going to be limited in the success that you can have when things do get good. I would say a lot of agents, myself included, for a very long time, had built a successful business on the wrong types of systems and processes, or even the lack of a system and processes. Maybe you're just receiving leads in, you're not putting them into any database, you're just managing them on your phone, you're managing them in your head. You got 5 different notebooks laying around, you got notes on your phone. Like now is the number one time to be consolidating all those and making sure that you're using a system that you can properly receive people in. I would say the next phase in that for the most people that are going to be working is, okay, Kevin, I've got that. I understand how to manage my leads. Then what do I need to do? You need to mock your way through the sales process and then find whatever is the next bottleneck in your process and figure out how to improve whatever that is. If you're having a problem with follow up on leads, you need to create your system and process around how you're going to be following up with these leads. But very basically, mock a buyer or a seller through the entire process and ask yourself at each step of the way, is this an efficient and complete way to do this going forward, or do I need to improve that? So once you do that, you can go through the process. Then you can worry about the next phase of your business, which is actually what most people want to do right out of the gate, is they want to put leads. The first thing they ask me, like when I'm meeting with a new agent, like, all right, how quickly can I get closings? How quickly can I get a lead? And I tell them, like, what good, if I gave you 100 leads, qualified leads right now, what can you even do with them? What are you going to do with it? Can you even handle 100 leads in your pipeline? No. So don't even worry about how you get the leads in until you know that you can handle that volume of leads going forward.
It's really interesting. One of the questions we have on here is how you manage burnout. And I feel like I've been so close to burnout over the last year. And what you're saying right now literally just made me feel so much better. Now, probably what you said might have stressed a few people out as far as like putting your systems in place. I literally had to hire a company to actually help me make sure my systems actually worked and were in place. Yeah, you don't have to do that, right? But I've gone through ChatGPT. I do agent tactics, right? And the back end of this, getting a guest, getting somebody to it, getting all of you to show up, it is a process. It's a process I have to go through every week, and it takes time out of my week. I literally went through ChatGPT, and I spent probably 30 minutes writing into ChatGPT exactly what I was doing, what I should be doing different. Please come up with some other ideas. Literally, it was a long ass paragraph. Help me come up with an SOP to make this easier on me. And I shit you not, ChatGPT literally printed out a step by step how to do everything. And so I tell you that because I went and hired a company to actually do this for me. You don't have to hire a company at Real. Obviously, some of you are at Real, some of you are not. Frank, if you're not getting onto all of the Lofty trainings that are in Real, they're all in there. I have all these agents asking me why Lofty's so hard. I'm like, did you go into to Real Academy? There's hundreds of hours of Lofty trainings, right? In fact, you taught a Lofty training a couple weeks ago. So it's a perfect opportunity to go in there, watch a few trainings, go to ChatGPT, and then say, okay, here's what I'm doing with Lofty right now. Help me make a better process for my leads to come through. How do I talk to the lead? All of like, I think what you're saying, like, it makes me feel better because I just got done doing all of this.
Yeah.
And so like, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so much better. So Frank, so you feel better because you were heading towards burnout. What are you working on right now, Frank? You said you were before we're on the call. You said you were working on systems.
Yeah, right now, just working on systems. My wife who just started working with me 4 or 5 weeks ago, and also with our VA, just systems kind of on the background. Like last year at this time, I had a few events and I was going crazy, and I did no lead generation last year at all because I was focusing on these events, and now being able to hold that off to them and them take over, and I just kind of review it, like, if it's like a flyer or whatever. um because yeah, I mean, I could easily get burned out, and yet because I was kind of just, I had no plan, I'm just kind of go go go. So yeah, writing things down and having a plan. I struggle with attention all the time, so I have timers in front of me and everything to remind me to stay focused on systems. I think systems, I've been in sales for 23 years, real estate 11 years, and systems help you get them to closing. It's not just going to be the first call. It's never going to be the first call. And I've noticed that since having those systems in place, I actually remember to call people. Oh, that's right, I forgot to call John, right? And then I call John, and then, oh yeah, yeah, come list my house. Or hey, yeah, my neighbor wanted to, talk to you, blah blah blah. So the systems help you not just get more organized, but also help you make more money because you're remembering what you need to do.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
Jeremy, actually, one of the things I remember about you was whenever, like my first year in real estate, I don't know if you'd been in real estate like maybe a year before, 2 years before I did, but you were already rolling. I mean, you were doing great. And you even mentioned, maybe it was at one of the times that you spoke at KW or to me or whatever. Is I remember very specifically you saying that you were struggling a little bit with burnout even during those times of like the year-long cycle. It's like you're
Yeah.
grinding through an entire year and like bang, 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 month after month after month. And then all of a sudden you're just like, I can't, I just can't do this. And I remember specifically because you even said you'd get stuff in the pipeline and then it would get towards closing. But during the time that you're managing those closings, you weren't refilling the pipeline the way that you wanted to. So you found that
Yeah.
you were having gaps in your business between your closings because you'd put some 3 or 4 things under contract, run them to the end of the contract. And then when they were done with the contract, you hadn't refilled your pipeline with transactions so that you had new closings coming in after that fact. Obviously, you fixed that issue, but that
Yeah.
meant a lot to me during that time to hear you say that because it always reminded me that once you get that contract, your job is not up. It's like it's time to put that on its autopilot and then keep yourself into what like the purpose of this meeting is staying in phase one work mode, which is filling the pipeline and moving those people down that process.
I think one of the biggest things that helped me is to stop, like, look, when we're getting flowing in this business, I am the most frugal person you'll meet. I do not like spending money on anything. I really, really, really don't. I think my biggest problem was I was looking at the money I was spending and not looking at the money that was actually saving my time. And I think it took a mental shift in figuring out that, okay, I don't just because I'm going to make $400 extra on this deal because I don't have a transaction person. Well, that's $400 that would have saved me so I could spend more time focusing on other things. And so I think the biggest problem agents face, so there's two problems agents face. Number one, it's getting business. Number one, it's how they get business. Or the others. So the problem is most people, and myself included, we're spending so much money on things that don't actually get me business and things I thought I need. So right now is a really, really good time, at the end of the year, to go through and look at those systems that you can just get rid of. I mean, I had a call with a guy we're bringing on our team on Monday, and we literally went through and just like, all right, we're getting rid of this because we're talking about things that are going to help the team. We're like, yeah, we don't use this as much. Should we do this? No, let's get rid of that. There's $400 saved. Here's $200 saved. So we saved about, $1,000 out of our budget that we could re-put into either buying ads or doing other things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where buying back some of your time is really, really important.
Yeah, I think the old adage, I don't know what the specific words are, but you know, in sports and anything else, those are talented can be very successful, but those who have the harder work ethic can be equally even more successful in days because the people that are talented at what they do are probably taking advantage of or not taking advantage of the fact that they have the systems and processes and they're becoming successful in their talents alone. So if you're talented at what you do in real estate, which would mean lead generation or closing people or building rapport, and you're thinking, well, I'm successful enough doing these things, but you're not relying on the hard work and processes that can get you to even that next level, I think you're doing yourself a honest disservice. And like things like Lofty, I think you probably hear this more than I do, but I hear a lot of people that are intimidated by Lofty and other things because they don't know how to use it. And I would say, like, if you go through that process and you just grind through a few of the details, like I said, take one person through a process in Lofty, one entry, and get to the point, you'll figure out that it's not as complicated as you're making it look, or that you're assuming that the software should be doing more things than you actually need it to do right now. In Lofty, you can get it to a way where you just have your people in there, you just have them categorized, and your workflow is whenever you're sitting down at your computer, let's say that you have 2 hours every morning where you're doing lead follow-up, you sit down at your computer, you open up the tab in your silo in your workflow that says these are the people I need to talk to today. You work through your warm leads and hot leads, you move them on or you move them to cold or whatever you do, and then you're done with that part of the process. You don't have to do smart plans and deep marketing and automated systems and processes yet. And I don't think you even need to do that until it's very obvious in your business that you need more leads than what you can handle. And those people can be pulled in some way, shape, or form and easily handled through the systems that Lofty or your CRM or whatever it is provides. So I think people are making that a lot more complicated than it even needs to be.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're focusing on right now at the end of the year? Obviously,
Yeah.
we're talking about trying to avoid burnout this time of year. What are some of the
Yeah.
things you're focusing on personally?
I'm actually trying to get more burned out this year. This year has been very, very slow and frustrating. I don't know, I figured yesterday talking to Ian, probably over $20 million in unsold listings. So I was very frustrated with that because I was on pace to have my greatest year ever in real estate. And the market just collapsed right from under me. And I ended up losing listings that never should have been lost because the owners weren't willing to uh, like I would bring them offers for these properties and the owners weren't willing to understand that the market was deteriorating right from under them and they should be taking the offers coming in. So it was very frustrating for me to do that. So I came into the end of this year actually adamant to ramp up my own business from the baseline and decided to start doing things that I wasn't doing previous years. And that was doing a good job of touching base with my sphere. So I've been spending the last month or so touching base with my sphere regularly. And that's already just those few things have already started to fill the pipeline up with clients that I didn't even know were planning to have transactions. Like literally just had a guy call me last week and he's like, "Hey man, we're ready to buy, man. 90 days. We're going to be start looking for houses." And I wouldn't have even dreamed of just manually reaching out to this guy and asking if they're going to be doing anything. So one of the things I did that I'm a huge fan of, I used this before in a different platform. I can't remember what it was called, but the ones that I think are very cool right now are Homeowner AI and Milestones, which is a way that you can create a homeowner's hub for your clients where it has their home. It has like kind of a Zillow estimate kind of value range for their house. It's a place for them to uh, upload documents as far as like warranties, repairs. It's just like a place where you can have everything organized in regards to your house. And what that does is instead of you creating, you know, market report emails and drip campaigns that are just the generic drip campaigns that everybody's sending out to your clients, is that you're giving them something that adds value. And I know that people that own their house, they like to look at their house. It's an asset. Many of my clients like to look at the house and as if it's like a stock that they bought. They want to see the value. Did the value of my house go up today? Did it go down today? Even though they're not going to sell it, it's just a kind of a good way to mentally keep that in mind. And if they have something that they're engaged with to go back to, then and your face is right there, now they're going to associate their house with you as an agent. And when it's time to make a decision, whether they're going to need a referral for some, improvements to the house, or they do want to sell, or they do want to buy, or they do want to buy some commercial real estate, or whatever the case might be, that's the way to stay top of mind with them. So that's something I focused wholeheartedly on here at the end of the year. And then, after that, manually touching base with them. So if it is a slower time, I know a lot of people like to do client gifts during this time of the year, but getting in front of your top 20, 30, 40 clients, having a deep conversation with them just about their life, like having a heart-to-heart connection with them about what's going on in their life, to stay top of mind with them. I think it's a good time to do that too. It's not necessarily as conducive to that whenever you're slinging houses in March, April, and May. Obviously, if you're working 16 hours a day during those times, 30 days straight, you're not thinking, hey, I need to go touch base with my clients. And I don't think that you want a long time to go by before you do that. So that's one thing that I'm doing. It's a reasonable thing that I think is good use of my time. It's something that I am motivated enough to get done. And I think it's something that no matter what other steps I take in my business, that alone could potentially fill my pipeline for the next 3 to 6 months for my personal business. Like your business may be different. Anybody's listening to this, Your business may be that you do 10 listings a month. That's not my business. Mine is I do a handful of listings every single month at varied price points, some of them higher, some of the, it just depends. But I like to give a very, very personalized experience to the clients that I work with. I care about what happens in their life. I mean, I'll give a quick plug if you're listening to this right now. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I do have a client that just did lose everything in a house fire, and I'm helping them get into a quick rental and hopefully purchase something for them. But they lost everything, and the things that they were able to salvage last Thursday, they kept at a local like assisted living home. And over the night on Thursday, someone stole the trailer that had the remaining items that they did have. So I am trying to not raise money, but try to meet some of those needs. If you're interested in helping with meeting some of those needs, just small things, household things, let me know. Message me separately on Facebook or Instagram, and we'll help get those people something. But that's another thing is I don't like to push people through the home selling pipeline. I'm not a mega agent. I don't do tons of transactions, but that's why I want to have a personal relationship with each one of my clients so that the retention is very high. I look back at all the homes that I had sold over the years that I've been here in Austin, and I was hired for some homes and didn't sell them, and that expiration of the listing did happen over the last couple of years. Not very many, maybe two, but only one of the homes that I helped somebody buy here, they hired another agent to sell that home later on. Every other one of the transactions that I've done, I either sold the home for that person after they bought it, or they still own that home. And I consider that to be part of like my personal business that I'm very, very proud of. So, I think you deciding how that your business looks, you're either going to spend this time of the year like ramping up your systems and processes for absolute volume, or you're going to be spending the last part of this year rebuilding the relationships with your sphere so that you can continue to do relationships with your sphere.
Yeah, it's good. I just text Brandy here a minute ago. Eileen and I don't ever really do like client parties or anything like that. And Brandy's fantastic at doing neighborhood parties and things like that. I think it's a really good opportunity for us on my team to put on like one of those movie night things or something and get people like a Christmas movie night, something that we wouldn't typically do. And I'll tell you, uh, the thing that I've done best in life is surround myself with really, really good people. I learned that in college very quickly. Like my grades are going to suffer because I go to Arizona State unless I sit next to the smartest person and ask questions, right? Brandy doing amazing things and these events is like really put me in like, okay, we can do these things. We should do these things. And it's really, I needed somebody else around me that does a really good job like with their clients, because then that pushes me to go, okay, well, we can do those things. Like why haven't we done them? Is because I'm focused on selling and not focused on people. So it's a good opportunity to remember what we're doing here as well.
Yep.
So, all right. So we're getting our systems and everything together. What are some other things that you think can help us stay focused this last part of the year? Because obviously we're going to have Thanksgiving coming up. Family's going to be in town. Many of us are not going to be focused on business. What are some of the like things that we could put in place right now to make sure we stay focused on business?
Yeah, I mean, you have to have that deep. This sounds really corny, but the reality is, it only sounds corny when you're not experiencing it for yourself. But you have to have that deep driven, internal, gut pushing why feeling for why you're doing what you're doing. And if you don't have that, it doesn't matter how much you work, you're going to feel miserable. You're going to make money, but it's going to say like, what am I making money for? To pay bills, to have, a miserable existence. And just, if that's the case, you might as well just go get a job somewhere and grind it out from 9 to 5 and come home and see your family and be able to disconnect at the end of the day. That's one thing that we don't really have the for the most part, us in real estate don't have the ability to detach our lives from the service that we offer as real estate agents. If a client calls in distress, at 10 o'clock at night to me and they need to make a decision with their housing situation, or they're excited about an investment property that they want to buy and they want to write an offer, I'm there. Like, I'm going to do it. And so, that's one thing I think is very important, is to stay focused on the reason that you're doing this business, the reasons that you like it, why the money is important, and what does that go for in your personal life. I like to say in sales, when I'm working with somebody, I've always said, I've chosen real estate as the vehicle in which I help people make their lives better. Before it was real estate, it was in fitness marketing. But my goal is not to sell you something. My goal is to help sell your dream back to you, whether you're my client in real estate, whether you're an agent talking about joining my team, or whether it was fitness products, or whether it was creating a business relative to some product. I want you to be sold on your dream about yourself, that whatever the method is that you're trying to achieve that for yourself is something that you believe wholeheartedly. So at the end of the day, that's my goal. So if you can't articulate that to someone that you love in your life, the reason that you're working so hard, or the things that you're going to do for yourself, I don't think it even matters. So this is a great time of the year to take some time at the golf course. Maybe it's by yourself for 9 of those 18 holes, and then meeting up with your friends for the other 18, or 36, or whatever you're going to do, and just hit the ball, think about what you're trying to accomplish. And I don't, I think goals, I didn't used to think goals were important at all. I've tempered my understanding of goals a little bit to think that I think it is a good idea to have goals to keep your work level up, um, because it is important to do that. But the reality is, I would rather someone have a vision for what they want their life to look like in the future, and then your activities daily are a reflection of your pursuit of that vision. So if you in your mind are trying to say, like, I'll give you a specific example. If you say, I want to make $100,000 as a real estate agent this year, you're asking yourself, okay, what is that $100,000? What does that mean to you? How does that translate into the lifestyle that you're trying to accomplish? And it's the old visualization technique, is, you visualize your life as if you're there living it right now. We know that psychologically, when you think of the future or worry about the past in a vivid manner, your body in that moment has a visceral reaction as if you're actually going through that. So if you had some trauma in your previous life and you're thinking about that trauma and regretting it and having anxiety around it, your body right now will have the same type of anxiety as it had when it was going through that. Same for the future, in a good way. If you visualize your life going through something that's very positive and affirming in the future, you can feel that satisfaction. Your body will release the serotonin as if you've already accomplished that. And I'm telling you, that's the motivation that you need going into the end part of this year, is that you give yourself the opportunity to cast the vision for the life that you want to accomplish and have the visceral reaction to that vision. That visceral reaction and the release of chemicals will independently motivate you to get in front of your computer, put those systems in place, talk to those clients, write down those goals, and prepare for this January.
I love it. I love it. Wow. I want to get out and go make some calls now. Who else is going to go make some calls?
I'm going to make some calls.
Yeah. I feel like, go ahead.
No, that's the way I have to do that for myself, though, too. Like, I have to, because listen, we all go through the same things, just different experiences. And it's unfair for us to say to each other that we're not experiencing both heartache and pain and success, hopefully more success, but we try to cover it all up. I had a talk with a guy the other day that I respect, and he is grown and he is successful, and he's going through some harder times, some harder things, like a lot of people have in the last couple of years. And he was getting ready to give us a talk to a group of men, and he was concerned about being vulnerable with this group of men because they see him as a leader. And I was telling him, like, man, this is the time for you to just like, in a way of balanced personality, be vulnerable with them, and then offer them the fact that you can be vulnerable as a man and as a person, and still, suck it up and go get your work done. So, I think this is that time, like I said, to have all these thoughts about yourself, about your business, set that up for the future, you know, lament about the things that went wrong this year, and prepare yourself for the stuff that's going to happen in the next year. And like you said, it just, you'll naturally just want to go do that. So instead of taking something like this and saying very practically, this is not a practical thing, like, oh, okay, step one, step two, step three. If you don't have that motivation going into it, it doesn't matter if you do those steps.
Yeah, that's I man, I have so many things to talk about being vulnerable. I'm actually working on a side project with somebody talking about interviewing high net worth individuals, primarily men. There are quite a few women we're going to interview, but on achieving like high levels of success, and in the process talking about mental health and like actually like making time for yourself. How does that look? And so when you brought that up, I was like, oh man, that's exactly what we're discussing, because I don't want to go through peaks and valleys. I want to stay consistent, but a lot of it has to do with, what we're talking about, staying consistent in the things that we're doing, making personal time. I don't make enough personal time. Mary says, we have to put time in the calendar for personal time. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
what else we got? Frank, what do you got? Mary, what do you got? What questions do you have for Kevin here?
I think we just have to make sure that when our vision board also includes goals, and we can have a vision board for all the wonderful things, but we can also have the goals listed as part of our vision too. Because if we don't have goals, then we don't have anything to compare what we're doing to what we could be doing or what we didn't do.
That I actually agree with Mary on that. The one of the things like I said, my pendulum swung too far one way previously in business, where I didn't have goals at all because I didn't think that they were fruitful at all. And I was 100% behind the vision of the life that you wanted to accomplish. But the reality is, you are very right in terms of, if you don't have like an idea of where you want to be or something that you're working towards, it's hard to measure that. And if you can't measure that, I do think that there's maybe potentially a bit of a disconnect, especially in a business that's very measurable. What I don't like to do is say things like, okay, my goal this year is to like this, like, so let's say this last year you did $5 million in real estate. I hesitate sometimes to say, like, well, this year I want to do $10 million. Like, where did that number come from? Like, how do you even know? You could do one $10 million transaction and then you're done for the year. So I like to tell myself and anybody that's in business, and everyone has been in a business before, is you don't know how the whole year is going to play out. So I am more of a fan of having like winning each entire day. So I do think it's important to have those goals for the day, where you say, regardless of what happens, I'm going to reach out to 5 people today, cold leads, hot leads, going to do this thing. I think those goals are very important. The daily ones, the consistency of those daily goals, where you can reevaluate every week and every month and decide, do I want to work harder than this? And I'm a firm believer that if you have those goals, you meet the daily goals and you exceed them, that your business is going to take off towards that vision that you have for your life, and you'll see that success. And whether you do 10 million or 20 million or 5 million, I don't think it's, as important as it is that you knew that you busted your butt every single day and you worked the hardest to your ability.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing that a lot of us that are on these calls with me are either at Real or at Tom Ferry. The one thing that always drives me kind of crazy when we go to these big events is when people talk about, oh, I have this many subscribers, this many followers, or I do this much in business, and then everybody's there stuck comparing themselves to that person. Like, well, I don't do 200 million a year. I'm not as cool or good as that person. I think that's something we always have to keep in mind is one person's success is not our success, and we don't. And two, when these teams that make like, oh, we did 300 million in whatever, at the end of the day, a lot of those teams still don't make any money. Like, being that team lead, you have a lot of time spent in the business, and you really don't. As an individual agent, you could probably make just as much as running a 50 agent team.
That's why I decided not to run a 50 agent team. I just had this conversation with Ian yesterday, or somebody, I can't remember. I think it was Ian yesterday. Is one of the reasons actually I do like Real as a company, and companies that you can assist in growing people's businesses, but you're not like in an employee hierarchical structure, is I do think that you get to this diminishing return in growing your business past a certain point where the profitability goes down. I mean, I remember talking to Tim Heil back in the day, who was running $100 million plus team, and you'd walk in, it looked like a frat house in their office. They're dunking basketballs on mini hoops and on the phone and grinding away, and there's like 20 or 30 people in there. And he basically said, every time I add people to this process and I scale up my business, my profitability goes down. My profitability is cut now by another 10%. And I'm not saying don't be profitable and don't grow a big business. For some people, that makes a lot of sense. And if you can do it, great. And if you want to do that, great. But as for me, I'd rather make, significantly less money and have like way lower risk of doing that. And that's why in my personal business, I've decided to run it mostly just me. And I'm still struggling with some of the things that you've already locked into. Your business is much bigger than mine, though, Jeremy. And, I don't use a transaction coordinator. I actually do just consider that to be part of the time that I'm spending on my business. And it helps me be really interactive with the transaction. So I don't do transaction coordinators. I don't do a lot of the other things that some people do, but then my profitability per transaction is quite a bit higher because I don't have those costs. And I agree, there's probably some middle ground between offloading and delegating those things and checking up on those things. I could probably make a lot more money if I did those things. But like I said, you just have to look at your individual business and determine if that's worth your effort or not. All this is, I think, essentially moot if you don't have, going back to the very beginning thing that we talked about, is if you don't have the easily repeatable systems and processes and know that like the back of your hand and you feel very comfortable with it, it doesn't matter what else you're doing. Don't think about adding a buyer's agent unless you just are grinding through some CRM. Don't think about doing some major advertising campaign if you can't handle 100 extra leads in your pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm glad you're on today, because I'm feeling much better about everything we're doing, because I've literally been spending all this time building out our systems, and it's painful for me. I'm a like run and gun. So building actually systems has been the most painful thing. That's why we actually hired a company to do it for us. And I'm glad we did it now, because I feel like 2025, I feel there's a lot of optimism. I don't know if the prices are going to go up necessarily in the Austin, but I think you'll see more transactions than we saw this year. Everybody's market's different, but because Tammy's in Jacksonville, Rebecca's in the Bay Area. You're here with me. Mary, where are you at?
I'm in the Finger Lakes area of New York, the wine region. Yeah. Lakes and wine.
Region. All right. Yeah.
Everybody's
like
market's
place to be.
Everybody's market's very different right now. Like, that's why I'm cautious about taking any advice from talking heads in real estate today, because what we're dealing with in Austin, I think, is very not super unique. There's a couple of other markets that are dealing with it at the extremity that we are, but 40% increase in listings from 2019 to now. You know, in some cases a 30 and 35% drop in those prices from peak. You know, those are headwinds that we're dealing with that some other markets aren't dealing with, except maybe Tampa and New Orleans. But like even in other markets that are like Chicago, Naperville area, they have less listings than they had previously before the pandemic. So they're going to be dealing with a different type of headwind, and that's that people don't necessarily want to buy in that market at all. So, you know, I think regardless of the market that you're in and the things that you're going to do, honestly, regardless of the environment, the economic environment, the things that I'm talking about are probably relevant every single year to take during October, November, and December to do these very similar things. Audit your systems, audit your processes, touch base with your sphere, and then ramp up for January.
Yeah, I love it. I
You know,
love it.
in New York State, we still can't make phone calls to people that we don't know. Like, you know, for
Oh, really?
FISBOs, we can't contact them unless we actually have a buyer to bring to the house.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot different the last few years.
That changed?
What happens? Oh, yeah,
It
that's rough.
changed during COVID because they consider us telemarketers. And in New York City, there was a group of people that went to the governor and said that they were tired of realtors contacting them all the time about selling their house or buying a house or whatever. And so the governor put into place emergency, I forgot what she called it, but she hasn't released it yet. And that's been since COVID.
They need to have that same energy towards the health insurance people.
Oh my God.
7 times a day or something like that.
Or ADT security stuff.
ADT.
They or they want to pay off your student loans. I haven't been in school in 30 years.
That's, yeah, God. I just literally, we were sitting here and I got a PPO like, hey, we're doing PPOs, sign up. Greg bounced out, but Greg said, just got to run in a minute. Agent Tactics is really good. This one is very thought-provoking. Systems is one of the struggles. My head resonates with the message in this call. The information is real, no pun intended. I feel more energized moving forward today. Thanks. So that's awesome. All right, man. Hey, we did it today, Kevin. We did it.
That's
Mary,
all we
we
wanted
did
to do. And it inspire one person. That's all that matters, honestly. Ourselves included, you know.
Yeah. Frank fell asleep, but it's okay.
No, I'm here, man. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. It's good to,
Cool.
you
Well,
know, it's good to know that I'm not the only one, right?
yeah, I literally had this call earlier with somebody, you know, Byron Lazine. We did an event here in Austin and Byron came in and so like 2021 was great, but it was hard, right? 2022, half the year was great, but it was hard. 2023 is hard. 2024 is hard. So every year the level of hard just changes. Whatever that hard is where it changes. So I think if we're not prospecting, if we're not putting the things in processes now, 2025 for many of us could be a different level of hard. We can make it a lot easier and change our hard for next year.
Yep.
So
Agreed.
I'll leave you at that. Kevin, thank you
Thanks,
so much,
Jeremy.
man.
Yeah.
We're next Wednesday, Real Migos is back. We're going to be back with Real Migos. If you don't know what Real Migos is, Kevin, myself, and Ian Williams, bro out talking about real estate and all the things in Austin real estate related. So if you ever want to jump on Real Migos and watch us bro out, it is a good time. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.
Hi, everybody.